All right, everybody. So thank you for joining us today. Here we are for another session of Kanini Connect. So as part of this session today, what we are going to demonstrate is our app that we recently published on the ServiceNow store. It's called SonarQube Spoke. So this falls under the enterprise security operations area side of it. So the overall goal of the app is for us to be able to, for an organization to prioritize and remediate application vulnerabilities, right? So that is the gap which we are trying to address with this app. Now, briefly about Kanini, we are a digital transformation enabler, and we have been in industry for like over 17 years now. We specialize in product engineering, data analytics, and artificial intelligence, and enterprise applications focused on specifically ServiceNow. Now, with respect to ServiceNow, we are proud to be a specialist partner right now, and I think we are on our way to become a premier partner in the next couple of weeks. So we see a lot of value in the ServiceNow ecosystem, especially on the low-code side and the kind of speed with which it can enable the digital transformation, right? So that is where I think we are focusing our efforts on and trying to solve some business problems that exist and that can be solved with low-code applications. With that, we have David Green today, Chief Technology Officer from Kanini. So he will dive into a little bit around the need and what he sees in the industry, right, from a security operations perspective. And then following that, we will look at a brief demo of this application, which I will walk you through, and then we'll have a Q&A session. Thank you again for joining us. Over to you, David.
Good morning, good afternoon. So secure coding practice is now a basic requirement for any PMO to guard against the accidental introduction of security vulnerabilities. So security vulnerabilities being defects, bugs, and logic flaws that are consistently the primary cause of commonly exploited software vulnerabilities. So we've seen a lot of this in the news recently with various data leaks and exploits like SolarWinds and whatnot. So where this comes into play is vulnerability scanning solutions. They help us scan for vulnerabilities such as cross-site scripting, SQL injections, path traversal, and many more. There are multiple scanners available in the market today. So currently, because there's such a wide range, we need to define the architecture, logic, and create more tables, and then insert that data into the vulnerability module in ServiceNow. So what this means is we need to create a centralized infrastructure and patterns to ingest the various vulnerability findings from these different scanners into a common platform using ServiceNow. So this requires us to write APIs, business rules, and to allow the integration of SonarQube and ServiceNow. SonarQube being one of those vulnerability scanners. So this it promotes reusability by providing a reusable flow component library. Reduces upgrade costs by substituting complex custom scripts and with safe platform logic. It also enables hassle-free integrations with external interfaces and other third-party applications with the Integration Hub subscription. Now, so where does this come into? Where does this help the PMOs? Right now, PMOs have to manually track these findings to ensure that the bugs are fixed. So with this module, well, without the module, currently developers also have to raise the work items manually. So it's a complete manual process, starting with the developers raising the work items, and then PMOs manually tracking them in whatever other solutions are being currently used. So it's quite time consuming, involves a lot of resources, a lot of hours, and a lot of effort, which also brings a lot of delays to the project delivery and potential for errors. So Kanini is creating a series of apps to help combat this challenge and automate prioritization and remediation process. So this helps PMOs avoid issues and integrates the scanners with ServiceNow and automates the process of identifying the vulnerabilities from the reports from these other tools and creating the work items for the developers to work on them and the PMOs to track them. So there are many benefits to this, side benefits, but one that is overlooked is education. So as a PMO, by having a dashboard and seeing the history of these vulnerabilities, so when they occur and how long it takes to resolve, you can get a better understanding of the capabilities of your development team and whether there needs to be some additional education or training so that their coding practices become more proactive and defensive rather than reactive. That will save, it may involve some additional time and effort up front, but in the long run, it'll make your applications much more secure as well as save costs. To start using this solution, go to store.servicenow.com and search for SonarQube Spoke or Kanini. You'll find it under the integration section. It's free to use, supports SonarQube vulnerability scanner. It can be customized for other app scanners like Veracode, Synopsys, Fortify, White Source, or Vigilant Shield, and many others. So as more products, vulnerability scanning products become available and in use, we can customize the module to do those integrations with ServiceNow. So I believe we're ready to see the application.
Thank you, David. Thank you for that, and can't agree with you more there in terms of the need for more transparency with the IT versus business there. So what I will do right now is to go through the ServiceNow, a quick simulated demo of what this tool is, what are the components that have been used as part of this, and how do we want to go from there, right? So what we have used for this purpose is a flow designer in ServiceNow. A flow designer, as you might be aware, is a single studio within ServiceNow, which will enable you to orchestrate all of your workflows, right? When I say orchestration, there are like 3 different components within that, right? One, we talk about when does this specific action need to occur, right? So there are 3 things that involves in a flow overall, right? When should the script be triggered? That's called a trigger. And then what needs to happen once it kicks off, that's called the action. And there are some custom logics that can be built based on which you can alter the course of the workflow, right? So those are the 3 things which we need to accomplish when we are trying to design an app like this. So with that, we have used the flow designer within ServiceNow, and you need to appropriately categorize and look at proper accesses. And as you can see, right? So as I just mentioned, there are 2 issues here. One is a trigger and the other one is an action, right? A trigger could be anything, right? It can be a change in a record that happens and that should trigger this workflow. Or a trigger is as simple as it needs to run daily, or it can be a weekly, right? It can be based on a schedule, or it could be based on an incoming email, right? So there are multiple ways, as you can see here, when you can trigger a specific workflow, right? Here you're talking about a scheduled one, and here based on an application, you can look at an SLA, you can look at an inbound email. So there are multiple triggers that you can leverage when you're trying to set up your triggers. So for this demo purposes, what we have done is we have chosen an on-demand trigger, which means we will try to run this once, right? So we'll run once and we'll pick what time we want it to run overall. Right. So our end goal here is to look at, as David pointed out, right? We want to integrate ServiceNow and SonarQube here. So the end goal for us here is anytime SonarQube runs a scanning on an application and identifies vulnerabilities, we want them to be replicated in ServiceNow, right? So now when I say replicated in ServiceNow, each organization does it differently. Some people wants it to be in incident tickets. Some people choose a different set of change requests or a problem tickets, right? So for this demo purposes, we will use again an incident ticket. So our end goal is anytime at this specific time, we want to have all of those vulnerabilities created in ServiceNow. Now we are looking at actions, right? So we are trying to integrate it with SonarQube. So what we are going to pick is an action which is lookup issue stream. So what this does is, as it explains, it retrieves all the vulnerabilities and issues that comes out of the SonarQube scan, and it can retrieve that and put it into a thing that you can consume basically, right? So here, as you can see, it is, right? So once you pick up, you identified when to trigger, what action to run. The next goal for us is to actually establish that connection, right? With the ServiceNow and the SonarQube. So there is some connection related strings that you need to update, and there are some authentication based work that you need to do. So this is a basic HTTP authentication, and you are just essentially enabling the API using the HTTP authentication here, so that you can retrieve all of those records and then you provide your credentials and authenticate it so that those issues can actually be put into ServiceNow. So as you can see, this is a pure HTTPS connection, and at any point in time, and this is generally used during the runtime, right? And at any point of time, it enables only one connection so that not a lot of multiple threads are there to pull the records at the same time. So that will help us keep it a single threaded right now for this specific design perspective. So we are going to authenticate it so that you have access to those issues from the SonarQube perspective. Again, remember, this is a ServiceNow flow designer, right? So we are trying to create access into SonarQube right now. All right. So we created a trigger, we created an action. So we have the issues authenticated, right? Meaning we have the access to those issues now, right? So the next step for us is to go ahead and map one-to-one, right? So what fields of SonarQube, right? So when a SonarQube gives you a scan report, it essentially gives you like many fields, right? It tells you what the issue number is, what sort of issue is, right? And what the type of that issue is, what priority, what severity, right? If you look at the right side of this, you can see multiple fields, right? A key number, a line number, message, what rule, what is the severity, what component of the code is that vulnerability present in which project, right? So you can pick any of these and map it into ServiceNow related tables, right? So we'll go into creating an incident record here. So we'll pick an incident table. And we are going to, again, for demo purposes, we'll pick a couple of fields, a description field and a short description field. And we are going to map the actual unique ID of that issue and the description of that issue to this ServiceNow. Right? So this mapping can be done with the existing fields within ServiceNow, or if you need a specific other field that you want to rename, customize, ServiceNow provides you that flexibility to do it. So what we are essentially saying is, in terms of anytime a scan is run here at this specific time, this will pull all the issues and put it into the incident records. Right. So, all right. So we have the mapping ready, and we'll call it done. And we are saving the workflow. Workflow is saved. Now let's look at the actual ServiceNow incidents, right? So this is the ServiceNow instance, and there are already an existing set of incidents present, right? So these are all different incident tickets that are existing. So as you can see, there are 574 incidents already there. So ideally, what need to happen when we run this workflow is any new vulnerabilities that are created as part of the SonarQube scan should ideally come here, right? So let's look at how many issues did we get out of SonarQube run, right? So let's test the workflow before we can publish it. Right, so the flow has been executed and the flow looks good, right? So now, if you look at the screen, lookup issue stream, there is totally, once we run the test run, we see 401 issues have been reported as part of the SonarQube run, right? So ideally, what should happen is this 401 records should get added as an individual items to work on as part of the incident tickets, right? So this essentially should get added to the existing 574 incident tickets that are already present, right? Now let's go and look at, we completed the run. So let's look at the current workflow, right? So we have run that script and you look at the overall issues have gone up to 475 because that 400 records that are identified as part of the SonarQube run were created as individual tickets within ServiceNow. So again, as I said, this is just a way to do it, right? Right now we are enabling, the demo is to create these as incident tickets. So there's a lot of variables here that you could play with, right? One, instead of incident ticket, I can choose any kind of ticket within ServiceNow that we want to pick, number one. Number two, on the left side, I don't need to essentially have SonarQube. If your organization is using Veracode, Fortify, Synopsys, irrespective of whichever tool your organization is using, we can actually customize this. And when I say we can customize, we are in fact creating a spoke for all of these individual tools so that you can use them independently in your organization today, right? So there is a lot of customization possible with respect to the tools that your organization is using. And also on the ServiceNow side, we can customize on what fields you want to see, which tickets you want to use and stuff. So right now this is available as an independent tool to download in ServiceNow, right? I see a question right now in the Q&A, right? Deepak, thank you for your question here. Right, one of the questions I see is this app included in the SecOps suite of apps from ServiceNow, or does it have to be enabled or purchased from ServiceNow store separately, right? So there are two different ways ServiceNow enables this, right? One is if you are an organization that has an integration hub license, right? Integration hub is a standard hub that ServiceNow provides, but you need licenses too. So if you are trying to integrate a lot of your enterprise applications into ServiceNow, Integration Hub is a more of a value add, right? But if you are looking at only one-off integrations like this, right? So you are using Veracode or you are using SonarQube and you want to just use independently, then you don't need an Integration Hub license. So you could take two routes. One, go through Integration Hub if you have licenses, or you can go through an independent, you can go to ServiceNow store and download it as an independent application, right? But with spokes, right? So as I said initially as part of this call, this is a ServiceNow spoke, which means this specific application just works if you have an Integration Hub license. You don't need to have a SecOps license here because that's again a module that ServiceNow provides, right? So you can use that without having that. All you need to have is a standard ITSM license, obviously, because you are using either incident management or the problem management ticket, right? So with that, I think we can open up for any specific questions around the app or how to use it, where to download it, right? And I think once this session is over, you will get information around this application more on where to download, how to download, and any specific point of contacts you need to help you use this application going forward. Can we, one of the questions I'm responding to here, can we extract only critical issues? So there is flexibility to customize on what sort of issues you want to export, right? So obviously, as you could see from the demo, right, SonarQube does a detailed analysis and it came up with 400 issues, right? Now, do I need to, as an organization, do I need to fix all of those 400 issues before my application goes live? Need not be, right? It could only be 10 of those issues are critical issues that I need to look at and respond and fix it before my application goes live. And if you, as as a project team, if you make a decision to only import the critical issues, yes, absolutely, you have the flexibility to customize and pull only those records that are critical for you. Again, so these individual apps, right? As I spoke, there is already an app for Fortify on ServiceNow that we have published, and there is an app that is in works that will be published next week that works just with Veracode, right? So there are more applications that are coming in pipeline to address independent tools that your organization can use. Any specific other questions that you might have that David and I can answer, we'll be happy to address. Awesome. So thank you for joining us today, and look forward for a little more details around this session from our team. And also, you can go into the ServiceNow store and search for SonarQube Spoke to download this. But specifically, if you want to look at Kanini and its offerings regarding ServiceNow, so please feel free to visit Kanini.com and ServiceNow, and reach out to us if you have any more questions. Yes, I think one more question I see. Yes, you can search by keyword Kanini, and you should be able to pull up all the apps that we published already, and then you can feel free to download from there. All right, team, thank you so much. And any more questions, please send it out to transformations@kanini.com, and we'll be happy to address. Thank you.